don't love me for my ambition.
Shout out to Joe Rogan. You know, we had that viral clip when we were discussing the fact that my tweet was the one that Joe Rogan responded to and told Katt Williams, "Hey, come on the podcast. You know, you're invited. Like, what? I don't dislike you. Come on the podcast." Joe Rogan doesn't ever tweet. He'll retweet shit promotional. He doesn't really ever tweet. He tweeted that, and now fast forward about 2 months later, Joe Rogan officially back on YouTube. His first episode fully back on YouTube in years since the Spotify deal, and it's the Katt Williams interview. First of all, I think we did that. We manifested that, so a round of applause for ourselves. You know what I'm saying? This is a part of the podcast universe history. We made that happen, right? But aside from that...
You're the only one that talked about it.
Yeah, I was the only one that cared about it. Aside from that, and shout out to the people who showing a lot of love but a lot of hate, because that clip has gone viral on YouTube and Twitter. No, not on Twitter, on TikTok, everywhere that I posted the clip of me talking about him being on the podcast. It literally has like millions of views on YouTube and people are going crazy. But it happened. You know, I didn't make him do it, but I definitely helped the situation. So, you know, God bless. You know, that's Joe Rogan. He can do what the fuck he wants. You know, we are ants compared to him. But God bless him. We have the podcast is out. Now, the interview was nothing like the Shannon Sharpe interview. Completely different interview. This one gave conspiracy theorist, weed smoking, shroom taking energy. A lot of wild takes and deep thought. But in my opinion, it wasn't that wild. A lot of truth in here. Katt Williams is just extremely intelligent. And it rubs people a lot of times the wrong way. Katt Williams was able to out Joe Rogan himself on this fucking podcast. He spoke about stuff that had Joe Rogan like, what? It's the same shit that Joe Rogan always talks about, but then Katt Williams applied it with a different energy. But there's a lot of controversial moments. We're going to play one right here when Katt Williams speaks about the transgender community. Right here, tying it back to the Ryan Garcia post that we saw right here. And obviously, a lot of the woke and conservative, both sides, are retweeting and posting these clips from the Joe Rogan podcast.
It's like
and I'm going to put playback speed a bit higher in case
you need wheat. You're going to have to get the wheat. And if you want to be able to make movies about certain subjects, you have to be willing to work with some people. That, you know, it'd be nice if you made it so that this is what we're trying to accomplish, and this is showing the negative side of this other society, and this is and this is our hero. This is our hero who's going to go do America's bidding and go over there, and you're like, okay. And those movies are successful, and so they continue this relationship, and you become a bit of a propaganda arm for the government, and in turn, they don't fuck with you.
Right, but that's what makes information so powerful. Is, you know, you don't care how people feel about the ritual. It's about does following the ritual work. Yeah. And so you can fool yourself into thinking there isn't one, but the evidence will be clear. So like when I be like, oh, these guys are wearing dresses. Everybody's like, oh, he keeps talking about people wearing dresses. No, it's not.
That is a weird thing.
It's not like that. Look at it from a different way. Look at it. Show me one person that ever wore a dress in Hollywood unsuccessfully. That's how you understand what a ritual is. So 20 years ago, I knew that transgenders was going to be a thing. It wasn't because I was a prophet. It's just I had gotten so much information that I understood that things are secular. So I understood that the earliest I had seen that word transgender was Baphomet, the transgender. And so I knew that in the ritual of Baphomet, the gender, to show allegiance to him, you had to kiss his ass ring.
Really?
And it said both of those things. So I knew that both of those things will become popular in the future, and that somehow calling people the goat would be normalized over the sheep being always the most popular reference.
God damn, we got some good weed, Katt. Jesus Christ.
Just must be the weed
Trying
talk.
to figure out.
Might just
How to
it might
jump
just
in
be
on
the
that.
weed talk.
Right. Which is my only goal.
Bro, look at Joe Rogan's
I always
speeches,
wonder whether
bro.
or not all the
He's
stories
like,
in the Bible.
this is the face of a man that's like, where do we go from here? Like, are we gonna get canceled or not? And then Cat Williams kept saying like, all right, here's the 17th time I'm gonna get canceled this episode, blah, blah, blah. And he just kept going. But this was the most viral moment.
Where we are experiencing it, like the mark of the beast thing that we were talking about earlier. If that is not, I think if you had to tell a story for so many years,
Yeah.
before anybody ever even figured out how to write it down, and you're telling a story about a civilization that allowed people to put brain implants in them, and then all of a sudden the brain implants were hijacked by machines, and people became just meat zombies controlled by corporations. That would be the mark of the beast. That'd be a demonic thing. If a demon tricked human beings into wearing a hat that turned you into a zombie, that demon would be like a famous character in books and folklore. But that demon exists, and it's just technology. It just shows itself through this desire for the newest, latest innovations that are going to constantly fuel it becoming more and more powerful. Until one day it tricks you into letting it into its head, like a vampire. Like the vampire stories, you had to let him in, remember?
Bro, first of all, this is why Joe Rogan's like the goat of this shit, right? Because the way he spun that and got out of that topic, addressing the transgender, like he has facial reactions, but like he didn't talk about it. He just spoke about, okay, now the perspective of like this and that, right? Me personally, I don't agree. I don't agree with the idea of someone being transgender and that being tied to, you know, direct ties of worshiping any demonic figures or anything of that nature, or it being a part of a ritual. And I don't believe that wearing a dress also is a part of a ritual. I don't believe in that. You know, Cat Williams, again, you know, at first during the Shannon Sharp stuff, I thought like when he was saying that shit, I thought it was kind of like a bit of entertainment aspect, which it probably still was. But here when he broke it down without laughter necessarily, like a serious monotone energy, obviously high as fuck. It's like, oh, he really believes this. And oh, he also studied stuff about this, right? I just still disagree. Now, is it because we are not a Cat William level of education? I don't know. I don't agree with this. Now, it's very controversial to speak this way, especially for the transgender situation, because the transgender community is coming out now and canceling Cat Williams, as he predicted, and Joe Rogan, as Joe Rogan predicts, but Joe Rogan gets canceled every episode. What's your reaction to this, Noel? Do you believe that the transgender, you know, I don't want to call it a trend, and I don't want to call it a wave. Let's say the transgender rise, you know, the amount of transgenders rising and be growing more, happening right now in this time, is it directly tied to the Baphomet situation, like Cat Williams says? Is this like a demon worshiping, you know, what do you say, kissing the butthole?
Kissing the ass.
The asshole? My God.
I don't talk about satanic stuff because I don't know anything about it. So I don't know nothing about that Baphomet thing, so I'm not gonna talk about it. It's just that simple. I don't know anything about it.
Is it the first time you heard that word?
No, I've seen.
I feel like I've heard that word before.
I have, and I've seen the image.
No, the image I saw
Yeah,
before.
I've seen it forever. I just
People bring it up to us whenever we do our logo. I guess our logo has some sort of tie to that
wow.
triangle. I don't know.
But here's my thing: is like I don't know anything about Satanism or like that image. Because here's the thing: like reality gets lost in rhetoric. So you can say something is one thing, and in actuality, it's rooted in something completely different. I've learned that my entire academic career. So I just choose not to speak on it because I don't know anything. But when it comes to transgenderism, the greater conversation of whether it comes from Satanism, I don't know what Satan's perspective is on transgenderism.
Yeah.
I know transgenderism to be, this is where I get controversial. When I was first introduced to it was in AP Psychology with Mr. Kasha. And the way it was introduced was the brain understands that there's a gender. And the brain cannot properly distinguish the gender you physically have mentally. So your brain would say female, you're actually male. Now, there's people who debate that and say there is actually no such mental connection taking place and there is no genders. That's a whole debate I don't even want to get into. But when I first heard that, the first thing I thought was, and bear with me with this take, it sounds like mental illness. And that is a rhetoric that the right pushes a lot. That transgenderism doesn't exist. It is a form of mental illness, and we need to find a way to deal with it on a psychiatric level.
As if it needs a cure.
Exactly. I don't have an opinion on that because I don't know enough about it. I can't formulate an argument. All I can say is I just have to go with the science. If there is a case that this is a mental issue where the brain is not properly distinguishing the gender, you got a case.
Yeah.
Now, if that's not the case, then we'd have to understand what transgenderism is. I also don't think we should just be curing people. Like that term is so problematic because that
is all mental health issues negative?
Yeah, exactly. Because then you would say I need to be cured.
Yeah.
Then you have to say the other argument was homosexuality and being lesbian, because if there is a gay gene, like if there's something biologically wrong with you and your brain can't make the distinguish properly, then does that mean you need to be cured? Like there's a greater conversation there. And it's funny enough, Republicans are the first ones to say we need to be more accepting of people with disabilities, because one of the biggest reasons why people have abortions is because the child might have a disability. And they call that a genocide of ableism, which it is.
Yeah.
A lot of people believe that. Like we are inherently searching and finding ways to kill off people who are not normal.
Yeah.
So when we start talking about transgenderism, if we say it's a biological thing, it's a mental thing, that opens the door for that. If you could somehow identify that your future child will be transgender, and we've established that that's not quote unquote normal or psychologically sane,
Yeah.
you can kill them off. You can abort them. Like these are the type of things. Like this is why this is such a dangerous conversation.
Yeah. Because you can. I get it. I definitely get it. But I do believe that from what I've read in the past, you can definitely tie science to both homosexuality and being transgender. And I've always believed it even before knowing more about the science, because it's just like a natural thing. I feel like if someone naturally, like every person I've never known someone who, and it might be out there, who knows, right? Everything is possible, right? But I've never known someone who is gay now, like as an adult,
Yeah.
and never felt gay when they were a kid. They've always felt like I knew inside. Like every interview, any situation, they always say,
I knew.
I knew when I was 2. I knew when I was 3, because they've always naturally felt that way. You know, there's been stories of people, you know, through our adolescence, you know, young kids, like young boys watching gay porn to see if they were gay. Like, are they getting aroused by it? Oh, they're not getting aroused. People are just naturally, people are naturally aroused by the opposite sex. It is what it is. That's why I've never judged gay people. But a lot of times people now, like you said, even from that mental health standpoint, they'll be like, oh, you're sick. You need help. You need help. Oh my God. And even from a religious standpoint, I was like, that's the religion. Oh my God, you can. But I've just naturally have always felt like people also naturally just are attracted to the other sex. Also, with the transgender thing, I've always felt like people just naturally, if they feel like they are of the opposite sex or they're misgendered, they naturally feel that way. Then they naturally feel that way. Who am I to judge? I'm not God. I'm not a creator. I'm not gonna be like, no. You can't. No. Remove that penis you operated and put on your body. You need to go back to a vagina. That's not me, right? Yeah. Now, there might be parents that feel that way though. Like, oh my God.
And that's the debate.
And that's different because now, like Boozy says all the time, like, oh my God, my daughter, my kids can't be gay, blah, blah, blah. But then look at Boozy has a gay daughter, and 9 times out of 10, there's so many cases of gay parents having gay children. So then that also ties into where I think it could be scientifically. But then, are they being taught this? They're copying what they see.
Yeah.
So it's a bigger debate. It's a crazy bigger debate. And
that was his point, the whole ritual thing.
Yes.
He's trying to say in Hollywood, for you to be successful, you have to propagate this standard. That was his whole thing about this. This has been a plan for 20 years. He's trying to insinuate that transgenderism is rooted in this figure in Satanism. That's why that's why he brought up the goat thing. And we don't talk about sheep anymore. Sheep is in the Bible. God talks about sheep a lot because sheep follow.
Yes.
They listen. There's the shepherd is supposed to be a very holy concept, because of the different things that it resembles. But he's saying, we're idolizing this concept of a goat, and we're propagating this idea of transgenderism because it's satanic and it's evil, and that's what the devil wants. That's what these devils want. They want us to propagate it. They want us to promote it. They want people to practice it. This is my frustration with this conversation. Katt Williams probably doesn't go to church. And Katt Williams probably doesn't read the Bible.
Yeah.
Probably neither does Joe Rogan. A lot of people who say this bullshit, a lot of people in the comments who are going to be saying, praise God, probably don't go to church or read the Bible. You don't have to go to church to be Christian. I don't go to church a lot, but I read the Bible frequently on a theological level. So that's my connection to God. I pray when I can. But like, for you to just blindly propagate this narrative that is about Satanism and it's against God, and you don't even read the scripture, you've already lost the argument. You already are fucking up the conversation. The conversation we just had about it being scientific is a healthier conversation than the one Katt Williams having, because now if we're having a scientific conversation, it's very different. He's trying to paint this image that it's like this greater evil idea, and it's
that he knew it was gonna happen, as if it's like oh my God, like just like like the world's being taken over, it's gonna happen. I don't necessarily agree with that. And then even the goat shit, like I could be like, yo, Marloon's the goat podcaster. People are calling each other goats because greatest of all time. It's a fucking acronym that happens to be a word, and it happens to be an animal. So people tie it to the animal. I don't think someone was like, the goats are satanic, so let's start calling people goats. That's not what it is. Now, there are some people, I think, who was it? There was someone famous recently that was like, they just, I think it was oh my God, Rilo Rodriguez. He just found out what goat was after the Complex interview he did like a couple months ago. After having multiple albums with goats on his cover, he thought it was just like calling someone like a goat was like a goat. Like
he didn't know it was
he didn't know that it was an acronym. He didn't know it stood for greatest of all time. He just thought it was like a cool thing to call someone a goat. He might be on some satanic shit. What the fuck? If anything. But like, no, people are using it as an acronym. It's just a fucking acronym. People be like AOT, AOTY all the time. What's the AOTY? Album of the year. Doesn't sound sexy. Greatest of all time. Sounds sexy. So people just say, go, 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 go. He's the GOAT.
Do you think Katt Williams even knows why the GOAT is revered as a satanic concept?
I think he does. That's the thing. I'm not going to doubt him. I don't want to go against. I'm not going necessarily. I have no beef with you, brother. Katt. Because, bro, he seems very intelligent. I'm not going to get that wrong. He knew that. He said it. Here we go. I'm about to get canceled. Blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? He's almost trying not to preach this. And that's why I feel like his delivery is so like soft and like that way they can't be like he's advocating for it, because technically he's not. He's just speaking what he thinks and knows and he studied, right? Because my thing, but it's dangerous because the platform is so fucking big.
Yeah, and then you're just verifying people's opinions. This is my beef with this conspiracy theory stuff, bro. Is like when you actually start asking questions, you realize, oh, you don't actually have a thorough understanding of the topic matter you're discussing. Yeah, you're really just going off of cliches. And you're like these deranged conspiracy theories. Yeah. Because even when I looked up what the fucking name was, the first thing on the website from encyclopedia, the Stanford Encyclopedia, was that image has been incorrectly tied with a certain belief system. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Bro, like, this is what I mean. Like, niggas just chat, bro. Like, they're just going off shit they see versus, like, actually chasing understanding.
Listen, I do recommend watching that Katt Williams podcast, but it's not a fun time. It's a fucking long, heavy conversation. Like, it's drawn out. It's because
they're high.
Yeah, it's not no Shannon. If Cedric was here, I'll punch him right in the stomach. It was none of that. It was a different conversation. So a lot of people were upset though because of that. I didn't mind it because that's what Joe Rogan is known for, so it made sense. Now, I do hope and wish that we have them conversate again. Go back on Joe Rogan, do another episode again, talk about comedians, talk about the history of comedy, have that type of conversation, more of an interview style. And if it happens, guess who predicted it? Us again, right here. We predicted the second time to end the year, Katt Williams and Joe Rogan back again. Smart for him to do the first YouTube full episode again like that. Amazing. Amazing, bro. I'm gonna check right now. What's the view count on YouTube? No thumbnail.
Has to be 40 million.
No thumbnail. He always had thumbnails on his YouTube episodes. Joe Rogan doesn't even need a thumbnail. No thumbnail. Let's check out the views on this.
I'm glad. I fucking hate thumbnail culture. That's just trash.
10 million views in 4 days. Will it pass the Shannon Sharp 60 million views
No.
in a month or so? No, I don't think it's going to pass it. But time will tell. It is an evergreen conversation. You could talk about that shit forever. People are going to talk about that shit forever. Moving on, though.
They gon' love me for my ambition.